Hi, I'm about to talk to Sean Gallagher about his work with Stamina in the 1990s to create Pilates home apparatus. Let's start with really what I wanted to start with was the origins of Pilates home apparatus, because what you did with Stamina was create apparatus for homes, right, for
Right,
people, personal
right.
use. So can you tell us a little bit about, the history of home apparatus in Pilates?
Well, there,
Joe do that or?
well, Joe had a whole series of home apparatus. Joe had what he called the junior reformer, which was a wooden frame apparatus, would fold in half and had a, carriage. Didn't have straps. At least the one that I have. I think there is a version that may have
Mhm.
straps that he may have made later on. But and the one that was sold there was a catalog that sold the apparatus, and I don't think that had it either.
Okay.
He had the bench mat was a home apparatus, the resistor was a home apparatus, the small barrel, and the spine corrector. They were all, and I mean, technically the Wonder Chair was supposed to be, a home piece of equipment as well. So all those things. And, I have, there's always in Pilates history, there's, always more to the story.
Oh yeah.
So for the equipment, I have to thank Joan Breitbart because
Oh, for how you
you know
got started with stamina?
yeah well yes, but it wasn't stamina that I got started with first. Basically, she she's always trying to knock off something, and she knew that Joe had a home reformer, and she tried to make one and it folded in half and everything. And I think that's why she tried to buy the trademark from Weetie so that she could have control of the name and thus then control of that. Because what happened was she was working with them, and like right before she signed the contract, she told them that that I own the trademark. Well, they contacted me and dumped her and came to me.
Okay.
So she lost, that, and, that whole thing. And she had started with them, and they'd been working on stuff. So then I worked with them to make the performer and make the spring, didn't have springs. And the reason why I didn't have springs because there was an insurance issue,
Uh-huh.
like a spring, because it's home with kids, long hair. If the hair gets
Okay.
caught, kids' fingers, that kind of stuff. So if they what they did is they used bungee cords, which is similar. It's a similar type of, it's not an extension spring, but it's an extension cord, and you could tie and tighten it up so that it would have a certain pressure. So we tried to make it, close to what, the original springs were.
Uh-huh.
And then I worked with them to make the small barrel and the
Okay.
spine corrector and the Wonder Chair, and it had a high chair uh, variation. So you could buy that. And then the reformer, we called it the Performer. I
Okay.
trademarked that name, the Pilates Performer. Um, there it is.
Oh, the owner's manual.
Yes, and down
Okay.
here it says, trademark Pilates and the Pilates Studio are registered trademarks of Pilates Inc., New York, New York. That's what it says right down there.
Okay. Um,
And then it says recommended weight capacity in this product should not exceed 300 pounds. So it's for home use. It's for, had certain things. And this basically, it sort of takes you through how to put the whole thing together and all that stuff. It wasn't that complicated.
okay. Oh,
So that was, one of that was the first thing we did, and it was the Performer. And then they had a higher end version that had wood accents, on the sides and stuff. So I have pictures of that. So here's a picture of the Performer
yep.
folded in half, right? And here it is when it's all opened up.
Yep.
And then here is the fancy version that had wood accents,
Okay.
and that was more expensive. So they had different versions. And so while they worked with me, they had to do it, a certain way. Once I lost the trademark, and then they just went off and did all sorts of variations and added stuff and did things that. So now I don't know what they're doing, but they don't. I'm pretty sure they don't make the original stuff anymore. So it's a contemporary version. You
So,
know,
yeah. So Joe made home apparatus, like we were saying,
right? Hmm.
and then no one made home apparatus since Joe until you, correct?
Well, I think Balanced Body tried to do it as well. They had a version like that, but and
Around
then
time.
and I know that I'm pretty sure Nordic Track tried to do it too, but
Oh,
they couldn't
interesting.
call. Yeah, but I because of the trademark, I said no, you can't. And
So,
part of this was the combination. Once we had all that equipment, that's why this book was written
hmm
because when we had the equipment, we had basically everything except for a Cadillac. And like, I said yesterday, you could put the eye hooks into into a door frame or something and easily get the arm springs and the leg spring type of variation that
hmm
you could do on a Cadillac, which is most of the exercises that we could do, roll back bar, all that kind of stuff. So, once we had all that apparatus, it was, first time you would also be able to write a book
Yeah.
about, and this is the basic system, right? Most of the basic exercises.
Okay.
And then, people could buy it and then buy the equipment and practice at home.
Uh-huh.
And it's like in this book, you can see like, it was like, here it is for the, the small barrels, right?
hmm
Right. And, here's the archives in there with the spine corrector. So I
hmm
was able to put that in there as well, things like that.
Okay.
So that was sort of the premise is to sort of do what, my goal has always been to sort of make Joe's dream come alive, right?
Uh-huh.
Bring that dream back.
Right.
What it's the teaching, it's the equipment that he made, it's now his studio up in the Berkshires and being having that studio available. That's sort of been my foundation,
hmm
ever for a long time. I mean, I know that one of the comments that somebody said they thought I had left, and I kind of did. I kind of
Uh-huh.
did leave, after the losing the trademark, I was a little depressed. I mean, I spent 10 years trying to do everything the right way to really build it up and make it work. And then I lost. And
hmm
it was a lot of time. When you have something like that, when you sue somebody, right, or they sue you, or, you're in a legal battle, it takes a lot of time, energy, and effort, and it
hmm
affects your life, and and not always, in a great way, just a lot of
Uh-huh.
stress. I mean, if you win it, then okay, it was worth it. And if you lose, well, I lost, and so I moved on, and Romana moved, left, and then
Uh-huh.
9/11. So by 2003, I was done.
Okay.
So I did disappear, but by that time, and also Stamina left. I mean, because they didn't have to, there was no trademark anymore. They could use the name, so
Uh-huh.
that was the problem.
Okay. So now when you started with Stamina, you started with the home reformer, which you called the performer.
Hmm. The
Then
Pilates performer. We
the
call it
Pilates
Pilates.
reformer. Okay, cool.
That was the trademark.
Now, why did you go with the word performer instead of reformer?
Uh, because we wanted to come up with something that was not what was done in the studio. It was the
Okay.
Universal Reformer, it was the Pilates Reformer, and we wanted to, and we also, wanted to have a strong, its own separate name for that
hmm
apparatus.
Okay.
So that was, one of the main reasons. It was, I mean, a lot of things that I did were business related. And
Sure.
I try to think about how to best, position and make it so that we had strong, ties and things, relationships, so that and having that extra trademark, it was like another trademark to have.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
So now, like the performer was the first thing, and then did you gradually add apparatus, like one at a time, as business grew
Yeah.
and?
Well, you have to realize. So what happened first was there was an infomercial, and we talked about that with Carol.
Yeah.
And that's what, when they first came to me, they wanted to do an infomercial, and they did that because, you put an infomercial on, it's on TV, and they sell. And Stamina was the manufacturer, but that's not who I dealt with at first. It was Marjolin and can't remember the guy's name right offhand.
Okay.
But, that's who I dealt with, and we went out and we did the whole thing. And then Stamina started to put it on QVC, and they would sell it on QVC. And I mean, the power of TV. I mean, they sold
Oh,
a lot of apparatus.
they're great at selling on QVC.
Right.
Yeah, they're like,
Right. So there was, I mean, they would sell, like they would go on and they'd like sell 1,000 or more,
yeah,
and be like in an hour. I'd be like,
out.
whoa,
Yeah.
and with a trademark, I got a small percentage of everyone sold,
Cool.
and it was, I mean, they were like $200 or $300. I think I got $10 or $15, which is not crazy. Like they're all like, he's, trying to rip everybody off and take, it's all about the money. I did a good, nice, fair deal.
Uh-huh.
But when you sell 1,000 or a couple thousand and it's $15 a piece, you make some money.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds like
And that, and in a lot of ways, that was what helped me, it was here's the thing. I had the trademark. I licensed the trademark. If I'd have just given it up, well, then I wouldn't have the trademark. I wouldn't have made the money. So the money I made, I used to pay to help protect the trademark.
uh-huh.
So, all that money that I made with that didn't go in my pocket. That went in the lawyer's pocket pretty much,
Yeah, yeah. So it's
because
like,
I was using it to, protect, the business that way. And, and again, it's all about time. So everything kind of worked out. So I was able to do that. I mean, I also had somebody that helped me out as well, at the
mhm.
time.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, because it was almost $1 million when it was all said and done.
So, now back to the stamina stuff. So the measurements for the performer,
Uh-huh.
how did you, like,
Well,
where,
Joan had started, and then since I had the home reformer, I worked with him to make it that way, and then with I had the small barrel, and I
uh-huh.
had the spine corrector, and I had the blueprints. So I worked with them to try to make it that way. And then the same with the Wonder Chair, because I had the blueprints and the actual Wonder Chair. So we sort of made the measurements, and it wasn't a like exact copy, but it was very close to the
Hmm.
original.
So I
So
think
that
that's like really cool because, like, at first glance, you might look at, the home apparatus and think that it can't possibly be anything like, what would be an authentic studio. But what you really did was you used the original dimensions and worked off of those. And I
right.
love that.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Well, I mean, like Joe's home reformer was not the same as his. I mean, it was similar.
Yeah.
It's 80 inches, and it's 80 inches, but it's not as wide. It's a little different. There's some variations, but it pretty much gives you, it's not exact, but it's very close.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I did then was, I also had a catalog,
Oh, it's about
right? And so
the,
this is the catalog dedicated to dancer healthcare. It's called the Arts Care Pilates Studio Catalog. So I
wow.
combined the two because I had, my physical therapy practice taking care of performers. So I have Arts Care, and I use that, to sell. I had a bunch of, healthcare products like, bombs and,
Well, I know
you
because I used
name it.
to order from Arts Care. That's where I get my sticky pads from.
Right. But I had all sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
So, but I also had, let me see, make sure I get the right page. So the first half was, performing arts and healthcare things for, dancers and stuff. And then here's, Pilates performer copyrighted. And, you had, the pictures of how to use it,
Cool.
and then we had the box and the stand for it. And there was a magic circle. There was, what else do we have? And then you had this one, so you can see that
Oh, yeah,
looks pretty,
we posted a picture of that on
right,
Instagram.
looks pretty close to the Wonder Chair, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't, yeah, and so the high chair was just, you could add pieces to it to make it connect. And
Oh,
that's,
cool.
that's Peter Fiasca demonstrating there. So,
So,
I
so the
use
high
my
chair
teachers.
was the high chair an add-on to the Wonder Chair?
Yeah, you could
Oh,
screw, it was a variation that you could screw
wow.
on, and so, and like the back could screw on and this could screw on. So you could take it off or have it on. And then there was, specific mat, that was thick,
Uh, I have that.
right. It wasn't a yoga mat. It was, but it was, the closed foam that's, probably 3/4 of an inch thick.
Yes.
And then I had, books for sale, all the books for sale.
Okay.
So I had the Pilates method, return, the collected works, the archival book, Maury's book, and Brooks' book. So you could buy those books,
Uh-huh.
and
That,
then you could also get T-shirts.
so wait a second. I think Joe is modeling one of your t-shirts right now behind you.
He is. There he is, right there. He's
Yeah,
got it.
he's
He's
got it.
got it.
Yeah,
And again, Peter Fiasca was the
there it
model
is.
for that. So I used, Peter was very involved. And then I had a Pilates wear. Pilates wear for women, Pilates wear for men. So I had a whole series of
Yep.
specific.
I have some of that Pilates wear actually.
Yep. It's all, and everything was embroidered, it was embroidered. It wasn't it wasn't done. It was embroidered. Yeah, some things went really well, some things didn't. And then I had, the equipment from Richtown.
Well, that's for tomorrow's topic.
Yes, I know. So, but that's,
Yeah.
you'll be able to see that as well. So
Yep.
that's sort of where it's all, that's, stamina sort of, they were doing that, but I also was trying to do it because you could, we had training centers, we had teachers, and every teacher, if they wanted to buy it, they got a discount so they could turn around and resell it. So I was trying to, integrate the business in a way, and stamina was one way to do it. Joe tried to make it all work, and he was
Yeah.
ahead of his time, and it just wasn't the right time. And I tried to do it, and it worked, but it didn't last. I mean, if I'd have been working with them and it happened in 2019, well, it would have been crazy.
Yeah, well, I was actually going to mention that because when the pandemic hit, when we had to close and everything, here in New York, we were closed for 8 months. So, I mean, we were mandated to be closed for 8 months. So that's a very long time for any business to be closed. And, you had helped me to figure out how to keep my studio going, during that
Hmm.
time. And what your idea was, what you said was, I have a lot of, not a lot, I think you had 10
Yep.
performers still in boxes in your storage unit. You were like, if you sell them for me to your clients, they can work out with you virtually on performers at home.
Yep.
Though they flew out the door. I mean, I
I
had,
know.
had people emailing me for weeks wanting them.
Right.
So that was your idea, and it worked amazingly. My clients were able to continue doing Pilates from home. And when you brought the performer, I took one out because I'd never used one before, and I put it down on the floor right next to my Gratz reformer. And I got down on it and I started doing footwork, and I was like, wow, like this is actually like pretty forceful, like in the right
Yeah.
way. The tension, I was shocked because of
Hmm.
punch cards, like you were saying. We can talk more about that too. But like, I was like, wow, these are actually really strong. So I got up, I put it down on the floor, like I said, and I got on the reformer, my Gratz reformer, and I did footwork. And I was like, that feels like the same tension. Then I got back and forth. I did one exercise, then the other. And honestly, it was so similar in tension. I
Right.
mean, I couldn't believe it. And I was able to do a full advanced workout. I did every exercise on the performer and I felt great. Like there was no, I mean, obviously, it's on the floor, but in some ways that was almost like better in certain ways for
Well,
balance.
well, but remember, it can't. You can get a stand. I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
I had a few stands, and we sold those as
They
well. You can,
sold. Yep. And my
you
client
and you
actually,
put it up on the stand, so it
yeah.
sits on the same height as a reformer does. Then.
Yeah, but I just put it on the floor next to my
Right.
reformer. I was trying it out, but like I didn't feel like I was like losing anything.
Right.
There's a few different angles, but again, the junior reformer, like you were saying, has different angles as well. Like the foot bar on the performer is vertical, but so is the junior reformer.
Yeah. So
And
I mean,
the shoulder blocks are circular, but same thing on the junior reformer. So it
right.
was, I enjoyed it, and my clients are still using their performers at home, doing their virtual classes,
Yep.
and yeah. So at the time, I had posted about it on social media because I wanted them to want this performer so that they could work out with me, and that was my way of communicating with my
Right.
clients about it. But other teachers from other parts of the country saw, and probably around the world, saw that I said, these performers, this is the one that Sean worked on with stamina. After that, he didn't work with them. So these are the particular ones from Sean. And I think they had like a resurgence in popularity because people were like, what's the number? What's the part number? I want to order
Right.
that particular one. And, it was fascinating because,
Well,
yes,
that part number is 55-4300.
yes. Well, you can get them on eBay. I
Right.
mean, all right, you were like, why don't you sell my performers to your clients? And then I gave you the money for them because they were yours, but then I taught my clients and your price was so fair.
Well,
So
I mean,
it's
I
so,
sold them.
yeah,
I probably could have, if I would have waited a couple weeks, I probably could have, sold them for a lot more. But it wasn't about. Remember, it's not about making money. I mean, we need to make money, and I had them in storage. I mean, I probably paid more in storage than I got in return, over the years
yeah,
than I got in return for what I paid for them. But it was also, during the pandemic, it's some people will take that opportunity to try to make money.
Hmm.
I took that, to me, that's not an opportunity. That's a time to try to help people out. And so I
Yep.
try to help you out.
Yep.
And by making the price affordable, it would make sure that people would buy it and do it. Now, maybe if I waited and they got that popular, they would have gone more and people would have minded. But that's not what it was about. It was about
Yeah.
trying to make sure that this could all work and happen. And again, there are different types of people. Some people will take advantage of that bad situation. I didn't try to take advantage. I wanted to help out. So,
Well, I appreciate that very much, and so did my clients. And what was also cool about it was that, that was your original goal with making the home apparatus, was to
right,
make Pilates accessible to people in their homes. But it was also, to go all the way back to Joe's vision. And we talked about this when we did our webinars at the time about, how Joe said, I'm 50 years ahead of my time. But oddly enough, there's a pandemic and people want and need what he was envisioning for his method, and his home apparatus is for people to be doing Pilates from home. And here's an affordable way to do it. So you were actually, fulfilling what his wishes were for his business, and helping everybody else, stay in business and keep fit and active. And it was really, really like wonderful. So thank you.
well, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's
Yeah.
trying to. I mean, we have to. There's different ways to do business. There's business to just for business and try to take over and whatever. And there are people in the Pilates community, and businesses that's what they try to do. That's not what I necessarily tried to do. I mean, I owned a trademark, so people said, "Oh, he tried to take over." Well, I wasn't taking over. I was continuing. That's
Hmm.
what people don't understand. I was continuing what was done before me. I owned the business. I was trying to do all the same things, but I also, like I said, when he was trying to think of, he was forward thinking because he
Hmm.
wanted to do reformers with a TV in front of it.
Right.
Well, what's Pendleton, right? Or Pendleton or whatever it is. That's
Right.
basically the same thing with, would have been Pilates that way. So, but that was back in the 80s, right? So, but we weren't ready for that yet. You got to be ready for it. So there's forward thinking. And to me, it was like, well, what do Pilates, the foundation is the work and what Joe did. And then trying, and I knew that he knew what he was talking about. And he tried, and it just wasn't right. So I tried to do the same thing. And then, you know, that was the trademark. That was, when we talk tomorrow about Rich Tone with the studio equipment, I was planning, I had a whole franchise. I spent tens of thousands of dollars getting a franchise program together
Hmm.
that I ended up not doing,
Uh-huh.
so like way before there was Club Pilates, there would have been, if I had won the trademark, I would have had, there would have been Pilates studio would have been franchised, and it would have
Hmm.
been the Pilates studio instead of Club Pilates,
Uh-huh.
20 years ago. I mean that, and so I was setting all that up and doing it with stamina. It was being able to like have people to be able to do it at home, go into the studio,
Yeah.
all those things, make it all connected the same way Joe was trying to connect it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we experienced that. We still are. We still are.
Right. Yes.
I'm still teaching on Zoom as well as in my studio, but I know a lot of other people are too because of all the things that are going on, the variants and stuff. So
Right.
that's cool. So now, so let me see, I just want to make sure I don't miss any of my questions here. So
Question.
so you mentioned the bungee cords, right? So
Yeah.
that's one obvious change is instead of springs, use bungee cords, which was basically for safety.
Yep.
Yeah, and were there any other, so what did you do for the chairs? Did you use bungee cords for those too?
Yep.
Okay, interesting.
Everything was related to that type because you couldn't really use springs.
Yeah,
And the difference is, you can tighten the bungee cord to be very similar to the spring.
yeah.
So when you said, well, I got down and it felt the same, that's because they were supposed to, set them to, like the spring, it should have around 25 pounds of pressure at its full excursion.
Hmm.
Well, you can make the bungee cord basically try to do the same thing. It's not going to be exact. I mean,
Yeah.
but even in springs, when I buy springs and I get the receipt, it says, to this level, plus or minus 2 or 3 or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
it's never, there's never an exactness. It's a closeness.
Hmm.
And, they try to meet a certain standard, and that's quality control and everything else. So that was
Hmm.
one of the things that they did.
Okay.
And, the difference, the other difference was on the performer, the wheels were embedded, the frame and the track was like this, and the wheel would sit inside and roll
Oh,
up and down, right, like that. So it rolled on the
yeah.
top and the bottom. Whereas, reformers now, they just roll like this, and they may have
Yes.
side, but this was like that. So that was one of the differences, one of the, a difference that was done. And, that wasn't me, but that's how they did it, and it worked. I mean, as long as you could get on and it could give you pretty much the same workout, I was okay with it. I mean, again, it didn't have leather. It was, a rope for the hand, for the
Yep.
things, because that would have been, yeah, and there was no risers. Stamina's done so many other,
Since then, yeah,
contemporary, they've
big
added
jump.
all this contemporary things to it that,
Yeah.
I don't, I have no idea what they're doing anymore.
Yeah.
So again, it may be close, it may not be, might be better or worse. I don't know. I think when we did it I mean, if you want it close to what, Joe's was, then you should look for the 55-4300.
Yeah.
I forget what the premiere, but it was called the Pilates Performer Premiere, and that had the wood accents, and they even knocked off themselves,
Uh-huh.
right? Which I found that very interesting, because as soon as they left, they knocked it off, and what they did, it was like, basically, well, we're going to get knocked off, so we'll knock it off first. So they made one with 3 chords and, less quality and this and that and everything else, and it was cheaper, so they knocked it off, and they sold it for cheaper.
That's so funny.
Yep.
Big lesson. And the other thing that the performer has is like the handle is like a soft handle, so it's like for
Right.
your foot and your hand too.
Yep.
Yeah. But you know what I love that you did was the pole, the short button pole. It like
Because it was adjustable. You
out
could open it. Yep.
and becomes a gondola pole. That's, I mean,
Well, that was one of the things that we did. I tried to sort of make it so that you could work it. The box was the same size as the box that I had from Joe.
yeah.
We tried to make everything very, I mean, again, as close as possible, and to make it available for everybody so that when they got it at home, they could do it.
Yeah. Oh, you're getting a lot of nice comments. So Dolly says, yes, I love that poll. Let me scroll through because there were some other comments. I just want to mention them. So Angela also did during the pandemic with small barrels. She handed those out to her clients. I
Yep.
also did that too. Brooke is saying this is great. Judy says very cool. And Rachel says the performer is an intense workout. I agree. And Rosalie said, I had no idea you had done all this, Sean. Well, that's
Yep.
why we're doing this project, so that people can learn a little bit more about what
Well,
things that,
and again, Stamina did it, but I did it with Stamina. We worked together, and we, came up with that whole sequence. I mean, they're the ones who sourced it, and was all made in China. It's China made. They went there, they sourced it, so they did most of the work, right? I had the trademark, so they had to do it a certain way, and then, what we did with Stamina was also, with Romana, we did videos. There's,
yeah,
when I did the mat with, you had to have the whole sequence together, and you would learn one, and then you take a break, and then do the second, and then take a break, and then, progress it. So you progressed it through the way you should learn the system.
mm-hmm.
So we did that. We did the magic circle, and I think you posted some of the pictures, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, video, yeah, you did the magic circle and the spine corrector.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's pictures of Romana. I have all these pictures in the archives where, she's sitting there, helping Marjolin Brugman, who was the model for them. And she was a Pilates person. She was the one that, knew Joan. There was a connection there.
I see.
And so we basically, we went to Missouri, because that's where Stamina's based, and we flew out there, and they had a production facility. They built the set. They did all that stuff. And we spent the time doing these videos, and Magic Circle and everything else that would go with, and the performer that would go with the apparatus. So you would get a chart, and then you would get a VHS, because that was VHS, it was for, and then it became a DVD. So I don't know what they do now.
They do DVDs now, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So.
Now, so if someone were to look on eBay, I believe they could purchase most likely these DVDs or VHS like you're talking about, and they could see Romana teaching on the apparatus.
Well, if you still have a VHH player, I think I have a box of those VHSs somewhere. You
You
know,
probably,
because
oh,
I don't really sell them because you know, who still has one? I mean, I do,
of
but
course,
not most people don't.
yeah. I
So
think, did you put archival film footage on the Performer VHS?
I think I did.
I
Yeah,
think
a little
so.
bit. Yep, a little bit.
So, you know, you can find those.
Yep.
So, what I want to show is my magic circle. So it has the logo.
Uh-huh.
And I have to say, it's one of my favorite magic circles. It's like just right. It's light. So, you know, for Joe's magic circle, as far as I know, he used one band or two, but not three or four.
No, I think he used three. He may have
Okay.
used three, but I don't think he used four.
This
But
is
I remember
very,
seeing one that was Romana may have done that because I think I remember seeing one that had four.
oh,
One is
yeah, yeah,
one is difficult because one usually if you do it, it'll bend and it will stay bent. So one doesn't really work that well.
yeah. Well, this
Yeah.
is a nice flexible magic circle. Thanks. And the pad is very, it's nice. I like it's
Hmm.
wide, comfortable. All right. So one of my favorite magic circles is from Stamina, from when you were working with them. And then my small barrel.
Yeah.
And
So I came up with that was that font was specific. I used that font to to stand out and be like that was Pilates. So that was always the font that we used.
yeah, it's very recognizable.
Hmm.
But so this is the small barrel that because you have Joe's small barrel,
Yep.
replicated it basically, right?
Yep.
And it
Except
looks,
for Joe's didn't have padding. That theirs did.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's actually very thin though. It is
Yeah.
the Stamina.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
puffy as much as the other
Right.
ones now, but
Well, it's
anyway,
not like what's made today where everybody adds, this, 2 inches of foam and it's like put all that foam in there and then you can't feel anything.
yeah, you can't buy these new anymore, but I've collected them used because I like that you used Joe's barrel to make them.
Right. Um, the question is, can you, Pilates motion,
That's
can
Brooke.
you yeah, Brooke, can you have them transferred onto DVD? The VHS, I have a box of VHS. I can't, to do that is illegal, right? Because I bought the DVD, I don't own, that copyright. That's really Stamina that owns that copyright because they did that. I licensed, the name and things like that. So, but plus, I think they already have the DVD. And if they don't, I guess if there's enough interest, maybe we can talk them into doing it again.
They could release something, yeah.
Yep. And,
Uh,
and I know I think they're following us, so maybe they'll watch this and they'll get
okay.
the idea. We'll see.
My final question is, you created this home apparatus in the 90s, and are you working with anyone now, or do you plan to work with anyone to make more home apparatus?
Well, I've been working with Russell at Lineage, I'm
Pilates
saying
Lineage?
that, yeah, Pilates Lineage, and I mean, we use the original spine corrector and the original small barrel, and he's reproduced those. We technically were going to teach those workshops 2 years ago, almost, because of the pandemic. We haven't. So this spring at Pilates at the Pillow, right? We will be doing that. There's, I think, a couple spaces left that people want to apply. It's for studio teachers, so you can apply. But so he's making those. He's also made the toe and the finger corrector, the next exercise, neck stretcher. So yeah, and he made the resistor. So that was another home apparatus. The resistor had a home version and a studio version. So and we didn't have, we only could make it from pictures. We didn't have an actual one to copy or
Uh-huh.
blueprints. So we had to do it from pictures. So yes, we're working to do all those things. And, again, the chair, hopefully at some point will come back, we'll see if we can do that. And possibly I've talked to Russell. We may be doing the junior reformer again, the wood version. So there's the possibilities
I'm sure
to
there'll be
make
a lot
all
of
that come.
that, the junior reformer.
Well, I think, for home use and to have it, and again, it'll probably be cheap. It'll probably won't be as cheap as the ones coming from China because it's going to be wood and it's going to be made in the U.S. and what you pay somebody now, or they can pay somebody in a day there. So I mean, it's more expensive, but it's very good quality. What Russell makes is
Yes.
amazing. He's made the Benchamat, which is another home apparatus. So we've made quite a few home apparatus. I'm still trying to, and that was before the pandemic. I was still, I've been always trying to do this, bringing that stuff to make it available for the community as well as for the general public. You can buy these things and make them available, and you can buy them and have like, I know Angela, she had her clients use barrels and things, and there's
Yeah.
ways to do that. So, and that's one of the things that we want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Super
So
cool.
yeah, that's the Pilates source. The Pilates source, is all about making Joe's dreams come back to life.
Cool. So Angela asked, did the junior reformer fold? Yes.
Yes. You can fold it in half, and then the carriage would sit in, next to it, and so it would definitely, yeah. I mean, and
Compact.
there's a little plaque, Atlas exercise, it says
Uh-huh.
all those made for Joseph Pilates, things like that. So I have all that stuff.
Yeah. And it's actually on display. So at
Right.
Pilates, it will be on display.
Yeah. So Angela's coming. She's applied and got acceptance. She's coming.
Yeah.
And so Angela, when you come, we're probably not going to set it up to work out, but you'll be able to see it.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff I'm not going to really, have it, it'll be there in the museum for people to see, but not really use. Maybe the only thing I might use is the Cadillac for hanging, just because there's,
Uh-huh.
the other Gratz
Yeah.
one that I have in that studio, it's on the floor. So
Yeah. All right. So I think we're good for today. We did our 30 minutes.
yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
So thanks to everybody for joining us, and
Yeah.
please participate in our raffle if you'd like to win a Pilates posters gift set at the end of this week. If you comment on each recording and tag a friend, and your comment should be about what you learned or what you liked the most about what we did in the recording. And you make 7 comments, tag 7 different people, and on Sunday, when we do our first reading for next week, we'll pull someone's name out, all the people who participated, and you win a Pilates posters gift set, a surprise. We don't say what it
Right.
is until that moment.
Right. So, and remember, people's like, oh, that's too many people to tag, but you can tag your clients, your friends, your family. It doesn't have to be Pilates people. As long as you tag somebody, and maybe they'll come and watch.
Yeah,
Ideally, we want you to tag people who would be interested in the history and what's going on, and
yeah,
find out that because I know there's a lot of there's history from Joe, and then there's
mhm,
history with Romana, and then not too many people know about Weed Tie or isotoner and that type of stuff. But then there's also the last 30 years with me, and I've done a lot as well. So if you think people are interested, send them our way and have them join us. It'll be great.
yeah, it'd be great. And if you tuned in like halfway through or toward the end, you can watch the whole thing on the recording as soon as we finish up. I'm just going to save it onto the page, and then it'll be available there.
All right. So tomorrow
Yep.
we're doing with Kathy's interviewing me, and I'm going to be talking about Rich Tone, which is the owner of the archives at the business. It's my business. But Rich Tone was originally a wood shop that I bought. And we're
Mhm.
going to talk all about that for the studio equipment and the original, reproducing Joe's original apparatus.
Yeah.
That's tomorrow. So if you want to know about that, see how that all happened, you can, jump in and join us.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have a special guest coming this Sunday who we will be announcing Saturday. So stay tuned for that.
Yep.
All right. Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks, Elaine. Thanks,
All right.
everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Okay.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye.